Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. We're in prime off season. Before we get into some NFL quarterback talk, we're going to start off with some college football. The main thing coming out this week is actually not really football related, but the ACC and the Big Ten are in talks to do a 32-team merger. And I don't know if that, I'm guessing that includes every school that's in the conference right now. Big Ten has 18, ACC has 18, but it's not for football right now. It's for soccer. And the crazy thing is, the United States men's team, like that organization that runs like the national soccer or whatever, it's their proposal. So it's not related to the NCAA at all. So what their proposal is, they're trying to figure out a way to make the United States better on the national level, right? I can't remember if this came before the Four Nations face-off that we talked about. That was such a hit that they said like they had 10 million people or whatever watching it on ESPN. Because I think it was only on ESPN or Disney Plus, like whatever. If you had to pay for it. Like it wasn't on regular cable, which is insane because first off, how many people even have ESPN Plus or whatever know to like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and watch hockey. United States versus Canada, which United States lost, unfortunately, in overtime. But it seemed like they had control, which is what's made it more of a bummer. But that was so big that us even talking about it kind of put us ahead of like what other media outlets are talking about. So I wonder if the soccer proposal was kind of based on that. They want a way to elevate high school, because right now it's all like AYSO, right? Kind of like basketball is run by the AAU, where I think that's what it is, right? AAU. I think it's AYSO. They probably changed the name. So I'm talking like 90s terminology here. So they have all these clubs that feed up. When you get to college, man, that's it. Like a lot of soccer players don't really get paid that much. It's kind of like minor league baseball. So unless you're making the Major League Soccer, which even they don't get paid as much. So they're trying to think of it from, I guess, like from a gymnast perspective. That Jordan Childs, I think Childs, she's at UCLA now, right? So
yes. She
left the women's gymnast soccer team, or not soccer team, the women's gymnastics team. Went to UCLA because once you're done with the Olympics, like there's nowhere to go. There's no pro gymnast organization, right? Soccer's kind of trying to do the same thing where, hey, if you stick with the United States and you're able to come through and do what you need to do, there's a chance where you can get your college degree, possibly use that to feed into the MLS. And they want to leverage it using scholarship or NIL money. I don't know what the plan is. But they want to shift it from, right now college soccer's only in the fall. They want to make it year-round and line it up. I don't know if they're lining it up with the MLS schedule or like the World Cup's in the summer. I honestly don't know what the schedule of soccer is. But I think this is the first stepping stone where if this happens, because I've had people ask, because have some ACC ties, we've talked about it a lot. There are some schools in the ACC that would 100% would get left behind if some type of football merger happened. A way to get around that would be if some like national body like the soccer organization comes together and says, hey, we want this group of 32 teams to come in. Perfect. Like if this works out and then they say, you know what, let's do hockey next, then I think you can have, they're just going to have like an entire hockey organization where it's all the Big Ten teams and all the ACC teams. And now, just out of the blue, that stretches from Boston all the way to LA, right? because the Big Ten absorbed all of the Pac-12 pretty basically, and the schools that were left behind, Stanford, Cal, they're in the ACC. So you're basically having that alliance that they tried to make with the Pac-12, Big Ten, and the ACC. We might finally get that, and they're adding in like what, SMU? Of all the other schools, it's like the most random group. And I wonder what would happen with the SEC or even the Big 12, because you're leaving some states out, leaving out most of the South. But I'm sure the soccer doesn't care. Like the SEC was 100% not included on the proposal. So, and it's one more thing that if soccer players are getting paid out of the pie from the men's World Cup team, that's one less sport that has to get paid out of the Big Ten monetary budget, right? That can then get filtered back into football or basketball or whatever. And I think it's going to be harder for some of those. I mean, maybe not the SEC, but like the Big 12, they're going to be feeling the hurt if this happens. Because like, what would you say? Like, how are they going to stay relevant? And then if the SEC ends up merging with them to complete it, you're already at what? 60 teams then? How many teams are left in the Big 12? Like, do they go bigger than that? Does it just become all sports then? And it's like a United States system and they kind of do away with the NCAA? I don't know. This is like an out of left field savior thing for some schools.
That's a pretty radical move.
I just don't see how they're going to say, hey, all 32 schools like Wake Forest, like, awesome, we're playing soccer with you. Football, though, slow your roll, bro. You're out. Like, you're demoted. Like, they're not going to do that. So, I mean, I guess they could kick schools out of an alliance, right? I don't know. But it's just odd that, yeah, they wanted a more manageable, basically MLS minor league system, and 32 teams is pretty much a solid league. You could do just like baseball. You could do like divisions or pods. I mean, we always call them pods, but basically we're creating like divisions like the NFL. Doesn't the NFL have 32 teams?
Yeah.
4 teams, 8 divisions or whatever. Perfect. And then you could get some real rivalries going because those are going to be regional. You could have all the North Carolina schools right there in one, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State like in one. You get Penn State and some of their rivals going on the east side, and then the south, like Miami, Florida State, Clemson, like Georgia Tech. Like you could have a good group of like regional rivalries that would lend itself to football. I mean, some of the football ones might be unbalanced. So like you could kick Michigan State to a different one, keep Michigan and Ohio State in there maybe. Or I could see them separating it. Because what was their proposal? They wanted nine conference football games. If you did pods, you'd have what? One other division you would play. That's 7 games. And then you'd have what, a permanent rival? Maybe 2 permanent rivals or something. 1 permanent rival and a rotating rival. And then you have a 32-team conference. That, heck, if you're getting paid from the Olympic money, I mean, who knows? That could be cut from the government or something. But I assume that they make a ton of money on their stuff. That's why everyone always fights over their rights, even though it's awful on TV, because everything's delayed every time. But what do you think of that? Would that excite you, or would that just turn it to a meh? I don't care.
Well, I think when you're looking from the soccer perspective, I feel like some of the soccer leagues, it reminds me of the different NFL leagues that we have going on, that I feel like it's for maybe someone who isn't as interested in football, that it's like you have college, you have pro, and then you have these different spring leagues that like it to them probably just feels like, oh, it's just an ongoing thing. Because to me, it always feels like with the soccer seasons, it's like, when does it ever end? Like there's always feels like there's some league, some tournament, something that's like ongoing.
Well, that's one of the things that I saw as a complaint. People were complaining, oh, it's not fair to the student. They have to play year round. I'm like, do you not realize that the basketball players start in June or whatever for their camps, go through all kind of training and stuff, whether it's official or not, they're there, or they're at least training. Then they play
there too.
Yeah, football's same
year
thing.
round because I was like leading up to the national championship, I was getting X messages about Florida State spring drills, and I'm like, yeah, I guess spring practice is starting, but then it was like they're at the same time we were getting like, and we have updates from the national championship. I remember after Notre Dame loss, I was like, well, that's horrible that like you lose a national championship and then it's like, all right, and we're now into next season mode, and instantly like right back to that grind.
Well, that's what last year Michigan, I think Harbaugh gave him a week or two off as he did his NFL dance, and everyone was like, oh, they're going to be behind. And I mean, they did bad this year. I think it was more for player loss than missing 2 weeks of practice in February, right? So Notre Dame had to hit that worse because they already had the built-in 2 week off, and then they have to reload. But the thing with soccer, they're saying because of the travel. With football, yeah, you're working year round, but in the spring, are you really playing? Not that many teams are. But basketball, they are. Like they do that tournament in like Atlantis or whatever they call it, Battle of Atlantis, and they're like playing in November, and then they go all the way to April in some cases. So I think soccer would be the same thing. And if you're a student and you get to travel, it's awesome, right? You're hanging out with your friends. I mean, I've done it. It's awesome. The bus rides, yeah, they can be boring. You sleep on the bus, dude. You sleep on the bus, and then when you're there, then you go and all out. Hitting the town. It's not like you're just like stuck at the stadium. Like, well, here's our trip. Go sit in there in the locker room. I mean, some of those locker rooms are nice too, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. I think it's good. To your point about year round, it made me think of the TV networks too, because everyone's trying to get you to buy like the ACC network or the Big Ten network. That's year-round content that could be put on Peacock or whatever, if that's going to be the new de facto Big Ten network. That could work out. Because more people are getting into soccer. I know a lot of people that I work with or whatever, they go right to the Premier League. Like, oh, I like this random Premier League team. And the MLS, there's no one around us. So if you're going to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to a major league, I think, Charlotte's getting one or whatever, that's not really close enough for me to go to watch a soccer match. Like, no offense. But college, I think that bridges the gap. Where a lot of fans I know that are more like, oh, I'm a big college football fan. Where'd you grow up? Well, I'm from West Virginia. Like, we don't have a pro team unless we're cheering for the Steelers. But yeah, of course, West Virginia, that's where you grew up. That's going to be like who you align with. I know a lot of people from West Virginia like that. West Virginia is like their number one and everything. And then they like pro sports. Where if you're in Pittsburgh, you're not really caring for the Pitt Panthers. Like, it's all pro stuff first. So I can see it both ways. I don't know if soccer bridges the gap, though. But if it leads to other year-round leagues, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to watch sports year-round, though? Like, I don't see basketball doing, like, are they going to care to get people on the Olympic team for basketball? They already have the NBA for that. I feel like soccer and hockey would be the two that it might benefit, right? Because, like, we saw the United States is getting a lot closer to Canada in hockey to where it has to annoy Canadians, right? They're their best guys on there. And the United States was taking it to them for a bit.
Yeah.
So soccer, I think we're still way behind in the country or in the world. But in the CONCACAF or whatever they call it, the United States version, or I guess the Americas version, pretty close, I guess. I don't know. We'll see if it pays off. I don't know how it would affect football. But you brought up spring practice of football. That's my next topic. college football spring games now are getting canceled. Your boy Mike Norvell is behind it. One of them. Texas, Nebraska, USC, Florida State. I know Michigan had canceled a couple years ago, like during the Brady Hoke years, because there wasn't like a fan excitement, and that always bummed me out. So when Harbaugh brought it back, I was always pumped, even if it was more of like they did like a scrimmage, submarine scrimmage or whatever, where it was kind of like a public scrimmage. To me, that's kind of boring. When they switched it, finally going back to an actual game, to me, that's the best. And now to see other schools that are afraid to play, that is disappointing. Because it's almost like an exhibition with your own guys. And I've read all the sides of it where coaches are coming out. Matt Rhule said, oh, it's more of like a fan thing. We have stuff we work on and it's top secret. Mike Norvell said the same thing. Like, what if we run like a secret formation? We don't want to give that away. Who the hell is running a secret formation in the spring football game?
Well, in Florida State's case too, you got to remember that the stadium is being torn apart as we speak. That they have a new upgrade that's going on to the stadium. So the stadium, even to run a spring game, wouldn't be available. And because of Jim Harbaugh, you can't have it in another location because then there's a recruiting violation.
That's not his fault.
Yes, it is. Everything is his fault.
That's the NCAA hating on him. I mean,
yeah. So I know which way it's being spun. It's all Harbaugh's fault.
I'll say this: if Florida State fans don't like what they see, they can read in the stands. We've all seen that picture of that guy casually reading, plenty of leg room. You can move around. You can do activities if you want during the game. Then after, you get to go meet the players. It's like a fan thing, and it's not even. I'll tell you the real reason. Because Texas and USC were like, oh, there are better ways to engage with the fans, blah, blah, blah. It's always like programs like this that are kind of on the edge but are still out of touch. It's 100% about the transfer portal. 100%. I guarantee that. Because after spring practices, there's another transfer portal opening, right? These guys have recruits that typically you don't know. 5-star, 4-star. You haven't seen them on the field. Are they good? I don't know. We see it every year. Some stud shows up in a spring game, looks unstoppable. Next thing you know with NIL, oh, they're transferring. And you're like, oh my gosh, that guy went from not even playing at so-and-so school to transferring to somewhere else. And he's like projected to be the starter. Oh, yeah, he was going to be the starter for the other team, too. They're just trying to keep it under wraps for who knows whatever reason. And so that's where I think these coaches are being just dishonest, man. They're afraid that they're going to lose players. And I don't think it's so much of the playbook. Like, we know Texas' playbook. We know they're going to choke. We know they're going to get down in a game situation. They're going to run some complex running play where the quarterback drops back. He gets strip sacked. They run it back for a touchdown. And you're like, what are you doing? You're on the 1-yard line. Why are you doing that? Just run the ball up the middle 3 times. Like Pete Carroll learned his lesson, right? That's why he got another chance with the Raiders. Don't be doing trick stuff, Texas. So I think it's funny that it's schools like that don't learn. And even Nebraska. Nebraska, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you going to come back? You have a sellout streak. You're not doing anything for the fans. You're pretending like you're getting better. Are you getting better? Are you recruiting better? No. It's NIL. You have fans that are willing to pay thousands of dollars for tickets or whatever. But where does their investment go? Not competing in the Big Ten? Like even Indiana has a playoff appearance. That's my new barometer. Like, Indiana was in the playoffs? You can tell a bunch of schools that, right?
Well, the barometer is, do you have an IUP coach on your staff? Do you have an IUP in the Sirianni Super Bowl?
Well, that's the thing with Indiana. They're out of a basketball coach, right? They pay for Signetti. And I thought they were going to go after Dusty May because I don't know if he played there, he coached there, Michigan's basketball coach. And then we re-upped him and he's like, nah, I like it in Michigan. And I started to think, is Indiana basketball the new Nebraska football, right? Because like Nebraska was only known for football. Then they start to like do good in like volleyball and other things since they joined the Big Ten. Indiana used to be only good at basketball. Now basketball isn't good and other sports are like making strides. I don't even know what to think of them. Are they like a blue blood? Probably not. I think a blue blood at least has to compete every once in a while, right? Same with Nebraska. It's almost 20 years now. Right? Has to be. When was Indiana last good? Tom Crean? That's before people knew he was Jim Harbaugh's brother-in-law. Then he got fired, dude, or whatever. He went to Georgia or something. That was back before like, Harbaugh was even in Michigan. That's how long ago that Indiana has been good at basketball, and Nebraska's even worse. So getting rid of your spring game, I don't care how many times you lie about it being about the fans. It's not about the fans. The fans don't care if you're going to have whatever. Like, I want to watch the game. I might not be able to go there in person. I can watch it online. I don't want to watch the guys practice because guess what? You already post practice footage almost every day on Twitter and stuff. Guys lifting weights. I can live through them lifting weights so that I know I don't even have to lift weights because I watch enough guys lifting weights online that I know I don't have to put in the time myself, right? It's like a mental, they tell you to do like, you got to visualize yourself doing it. Like, oh, you're going to run a mile. Visualize yourself running at that 7-mile pace, Matt, you talked about in the pre-show. And then you wake up and you hit it and it's unbelievable. That's what I do. I just sit down and I'm like visualizing me working out with the guys and cheering other guys on lifting weights. Then I go back to my job and I don't lift weights at all. And I'm like, hopefully I don't have a heart attack today. That's what Nebraska's kind of like. Hey, hopefully people don't forget about us. Did anyone see our season ticket renewal rate? What's it at? What else are they going to do here? Like, they had the conference easily mailed to them when they changed to an East and West, and they couldn't win in the West Division. How is that possible? Plus, how is Wisconsin basketball any good? Their football team, I look at their basketball schedule, easy. They get the easy football schedule. They get the easy basketball schedule. And then, right now, Michigan and Michigan State are tied for first in the Big Ten basketball. Wisconsin is right there. So if Michigan and Michigan State like drop a surprise game or two down the stretch here, Wisconsin could end up with a shared or the title outright for all we know because they don't play any of the top teams. It's like, is Barry Alvarez making the schedule every sport? He's just like hanging out at the Big Ten office like, yeah, you know what? I'll make the schedules. No worries. No worries. That's what Nebraska needs. They need a Barry Alvarez to start meddling. Where it's like, what the heck? Nebraska gets to play Illinois twice this year? How? How'd this happen? Although Illinois was close to making a playoffs last year. They can't even beat them. I don't know what to think. But that's my thing. What do you think about spring games? Do you watch them?
If they're on, I watch them.
I watch them.
If they're not, then I go to YouTube and I find old games.
See, because I like to see, what's this guy look like, right? Michigan signs Bryce Underwood, number 1 quarterback. He's not going to be getting hit in the spring game. They're like, to minimize injury. These dudes are at practice every day. You don't think they're actually doing physical stuff? What do you think? They're rolling around in bubbles?
Yes.
Preventing injury?
They're not hitting him.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're not getting hit. So even in the spring game, I've watched the games. They blow the whistle when the quarterback's about to get hit. It's like a Pro Bowl, right? But at least you get to see him.
It's like a Pat Mahomes game.
But at least you get to see him throw. Yeah, and now if he's busting out 90-yard runs when no one's running, like they're running away from him, you're like losing in Madden, and you're like, I need this guy to score so I get the ball back. Try to kick it outside. Making your guys dive out of bounds. That's what it's like. And you're like, I don't know if that was a good run or not. Because I have seen quarterbacks do that. You're like, oh, this guy's supposed to be fast. And he's just scrambling around the spring game and everyone's afraid to touch him. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work out in the real season. But I like to see him throw. Because like the cornerbacks, second string, third string, doesn't matter. Get them some live reps against other big college guys. Because you have to think, what did Harbaugh say? Like iron sharpening iron? Or whatever he used to say, one of his Harbaughisms. Like, yeah, we're out there. We know our guys are good. We need them to be better. So, like, that's why I was impressed last year because Michigan's offensive line, I knew Michigan's defense was good. So when the offensive line was dominating in the spring game, I thought this might be good. And then it ended up just being, couldn't get a quarterback offensive play calling going. Although I did see that Kirk Campbell, Michigan's offensive coordinator, got fired. Harbaugh brought him in for the Chargers, baby. What a career. Dude, this guy went from, like, I forget what his first no-name college. Then he got fired as the offensive coordinator for Old Dominion. Came to Michigan. Worked his way up, become the offensive coordinator. Got fired. Now he's with the Chargers. If he gets an offensive coordinator job in the NFL, this dude should be giving motivational speeches in 10 years about how to fail upward. Right? How? How do you get fired at Old Dominion, then Michigan, and then you're just randomly with the Chargers? That's a miracle. Miracle on Ice Part 2 almost happened, but didn't. You have to live through Kirk Campbell's career path and say, how do I be that guy? But any other college football stuff you got?
Not really. I mean, we've kind of hit the dead zone.
I know it is the dead zone. That's why I'm like, we've got two big topics. I was excited. And then, of course, now for the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, I wake up, see a picture of him in a Titans jersey. I think, did it happen? Is he moving? Because people keep saying, Steeler fans are like, maybe we can get Aaron Rodgers. And they must listen to the show. When did we talk about that? And I'm like, do you want that? I don't want him. I don't want him anywhere near the Steelers. And then I see Matt Stafford's on the block. Do the Steelers go like that direction? Because at this point, I don't know where you can go. You have to either go for a rookie quarterback. Those are kind of hit or miss. And especially if you're drafting late round, like the Steelers would be. I guess it would be like later rounds, right? How many teams make the playoffs now? So you're in the second half. Is there even a good quarterback this year? I don't think so. It's really just everyone's hyping up Sanders. He's skipping the combine. Williams skipped the combine last year. They tried to make it a big deal. And I thought that other quarterbacks had skipped the combine in the past. But then I was looking because I thought like Josh Allen or someone did. But then it was said that like they might have just skipped like parts of it, like throwing. And what's the rest of it? Running? Like, hey, let's see. Our line sucks. Let's see how fast you can get out of this pocket by running a 40-yard dash. Throwing is the most important part, or reading the defense. But even that, like Jaden Daniels last year, wasn't his like Wonderlic score awful? And they tried to do like the chalkboard test where they showed him the plays, and they were like, "That's one of the worst quarterback performances I've ever seen." And yet he made the playoffs and almost made it to the Super Bowl this year. So you don't know. You are just guessing. But I do know that at some point, Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, they're super old. Do you think either of them will win a Super Bowl in their final of their career? You can put them on any team on the market right now.
I'm going to say no.
I don't think so.
Tentatively.
Either. Tentatively?
Yeah.
The only way I could see it miraculously happening is if somehow like the Lions get through the season and like Goff gets injured And they're like, oh my gosh, we just need some guy to come in here. Our defense is healthy again. We're good. And then Aaron Rodgers, no one wanted him, and he's just a free agent. And they're like, can you just come in and not be a jerk? Like, please. And he was like, okay, I'll do it. Like, that's the only like miracle that would happen for him to do it. Like, they're not going to come to Pittsburgh and win a Super Bowl. So that's a pipe dream. People can stop thinking about that happening. I just don't know what a good landing spot for either of them would be. Like, if you're Stafford, you ask for a trade, where would you want to go?
Somewhere warm. Not trying to go somewhere cold. Go Arizona. Go Tampa. Go Miami.
Miami would be a good fit. Well, I guess
New Orleans would be an ideal fit.
Maybe.
Good food.
I don't know though. Who'd they hire as their coach? They hired Doug Nussmeier as their offensive coordinator.
Doesn't matter. It's all lather, rinse, repeat.
Bro, every time a Michigan coordinator that's another Kirk Campbell right there. That's a Brady Hoke offensive coordinator. That's how bad he was. Remember, he was awful at Florida too, and Alabama. If you're awful at Florida, Alabama, and Michigan in college as an offensive coordinator with the talent they get, Matt, that's not a good sign. In the NFL, I don't care if he was Jalen Hurts' personal attendant or whatever he was doing in there. He was like the quarterback guy. You don't elevate that guy to calling plays. Unless, who'd they get? Kellen Moore? Because they were both with the Eagles, right? Win the Super Bowl, they're like, we're going to go to the Saints. I think that's a poor hire. I think it's kind of just like Sherrod Moore hiring Kirk Campbell last year, where, hey, we just won the championship with you. I want you to be my guy. I think that's going to be a rude awakening. Horrible hire. And Nussmeier, you still owe me, bro. I had season tickets when you were there. Horrible performance I had to watch. At least I'm pretty sure had to have been. Because I had season tickets up to the Harbaugh, right? So, no remorse. Awful hire. Write that down. Now, if the Saints win the Super Bowl and they get Matt Stafford or something and it goes crazy, then there must have been another hurricane or something. The NFL's fixing it. Right? That's the only way. I didn't get the NFL script this year yet to know what's going to happen. That's why I was high on the Eagles all year, right? I read the script. I knew they told me, keep it down. Don't start, but wait till the Super Bowl's over to start bringing that back up. So I did. I didn't want to spoil it for anybody else, you know? This year, it's not going to be the Saints. I can tell you ahead of time. Who else? Cowboys? Nah. They've been trying to get rid of Dak, though.
Well, maybe it will be New Orleans because they'll draft Dion's boy.
Sanders.
Yeah.
Do they have the first pick?
No, but they have a high pick.
Do you think he goes number 1, though, or is it Hunter?
I mean, they may, for as much of a circus as Dion brings for those two, maybe they're not even 1 or 2.
Maybe. They just get drafted together. They like come out with their hands fasted together like they used to do in like the old Celtic weddings.
Like best friends.
They're like, got him. 1 offense, 1 defense. They call it the Sanders experience. Deion Sanders. And then, of course, Deion's coming out with them. And he's just there. He's not really doing anything, but he's with them. And then he's back at Colorado. Which, do you think they fall off without his top 2 recruits?
I would say, yeah.
Like that's why I was shocked that people were always like, "Oh, Deion stinks." Colorado, they're going to win like 3 games this year? Horrible performance. And I'm like, they got 2 great guys. All you need in college is like a couple great game-breaking guys, and you're going to be at least bowl eligible. 3 wins. Like now they're gone. So if you told me Colorado 3 wins, I'll say, yeah, probably. I don't know who else they have, right? They had some great playmakers, but a lot of their stuff was undersized. They don't. Do they have the NIL? I mean, they were throwing money around for Dion that I feel like they're going to be close to competing in the Big 12. But then you have a problem where BYU has church money. Like, you don't mess around with that. They're crushing Kansas in basketball now, BYU, and they're like almost making the playoffs in the first year in the Big 12. And SMU, another private school with big money, makes it in the first year in the ACC. When you start throwing money around in the NIL, it's going to go back to the 80s. Who was good in the 80s? Oh, BYU won national championship back then. Oh, awesome. Like SMU, they had to get the death penalty because they wouldn't stop. Now they don't have to stop, Matt. So Colorado, yeah, they won it like in the 90s, but that to me seems like a fluke. And I don't know if Dion can bring that back, but maybe they have enough money and Joel Klatt on TV talking it up that they can get enough recruits to kind of get them into an invite into the men's soccer conference, the United States Men's Soccer Conference. That's what the merger is going to be called. And
no, now it all makes sense now. It's the way to just create the fall of the NCAA.
Yeah, it's just like the men's soccer, and it's a picture of like David Beckham or someone that's not even American. He's just there, right? Who's the best American soccer guy? Pulisic? Who else would played in the MLS? I don't even know. That's sad. They had Messi. He was in the MLS though, right? Beckham, Messi. That's how they split it up. They don't call it the ACC or the Big Ten anymore. They have like the David Beckham or the Lionel Messi division, and then they meet together, and they have to juggle the ball the longest to see who gets home field advantage in the football playoffs. So, I don't know. I like if Colorado could be left out completely, then Florida State can get him back. Dion can come back to Florida State, hype things up. He could be the hype man if Sanders ends up somewhere in Florida. Because I think we're going to see some shenanigans this year. What is it? It's almost March. We'll start doing some draft stuff, but I think we're going to see an Eli Manning type display, right? Would that be a safe bet?
Possibly.
Because how many people in NFL history told them not to draft? Bo Jackson, Eli Manning, Sanders? Is that it? Did Peyton Manning say it too?
Probably.
I think Peyton did. So every decade, you have one high-profile athlete or family telling teams, nah, don't do that. I guess we skipped the decade. But here we go. It's time to bring that back. Sanders comes in, and he's like, no, I want to be a Raider, baby. Raider Nation, rise up, dude. You'd buy his jersey.
No. There's one jersey I would buy right now.
Jameis in Pittsburgh? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh, you bring that up every show. We should just start off the show with it. You give us.
I'm gonna will it into existence.
Should I start tweeting at him?
Yes.
Hey,
tell him to come on the show. He can. That would be entertaining.
Jim, I don't know if would you make it through the show? You might pass out. Would you be too nervous to say anything?
No. There's plenty of stuff. We could talk baseball. We could talk football. We could talk about eating.
What if I just sat on the show and ate a bucket of crab legs? What would you say?
Nothing. He'd probably give you some pointers on where to get good ones.
I'll start tweeting at him. What else I got going on, bro? It's the off season. I know. I was thinking like I tried to look into doing that Twitter Spaces or whatever. Like, wonder if we could also stream there. And then I thought, I don't know if I can get this working to do like the podcast and messing it up. But maybe I'll just start tweeting on there again and see if we can get them. I'm all for it. Hey, yo, bro, just call in on Skype, see what's up. Ask him what's his best city to tailgate in. Like, what does he think would be the best tailgate? He's been everywhere, right? In the NFL, he's been there long enough.
Yeah.
He would know. I'll ask him about Florida State stadium renovations. What he thinks of those. Are they making it smaller? Do you know?
Probably. Well, I think in some spots they were expanding seating, but I think it's like everywhere else. They're going with the fancier seats and trying to just sell more corporate style.
Well, see, that's the thing. So I went to what was that? We went to see Metallica play at the Dolphin Stadium. I don't know what it's called. Is it Hard Rock? This is like a while ago. And online, most of the tickets were sold out. Stadium was like half empty. And I thought, is this like an NFL corporate deal where they just a corporate gets how many tickets to each event, and you're going in, it's like a bunch of old people, and they're like, hey, what are our tickets for this week? They're like, Metallica. And they're like, yeah, it's a no from me, dog. I'm not going to go to that. And then because I remember I sat down and then at one point they're like, just come down, come down to the pit. There's not that many people here. And then I went down for a bit, and then I thought, I don't need to be standing. I went back to my seat. That's how I picture corporate, these events. They're like, we're going to make the stadium awesome, but it's going to be more like selling you stuff, like $10 beers or $20 beers and stuff. And then at some point you're like, is this an after work mixer? I don't want to hang out with people from work at the sports game. You should be yelling at the players to do better, right? That's what you're paying them for. Unless Mark Cuban's in the crowd, then he could fight you. But that's some fans I don't understand. You go to the game and you hang out in the high rise watching a different game on TV. I saw that at the hockey game. Went to see the Hurricanes. This is a while ago. And they have a lounge on the club level, right? Casually, 4 families in the couch area watching a different NHL game on the TV. And I thought, is this a work thing? They just come into the club level but they're not watching the Hurricanes play at all. You could just go over and have pretty good seats and actually watch a real game. You could stay at home and watch the game on the TV. You don't have to watch it at the stadium TV. Right? So I don't know. I'm always baffled by that. Adding all these corporate seats are great, but are people going to go and cheer on the team? I feel like you're going to lose a home field advantage. I would rather if you can get a donor to keep tickets low and the beer flowing, man, you could have a crazy crowd. You'd have to make sure you balance it just enough so that the crowd's not super drunk doing stupid stuff, but loud enough that you have a pure home field advantage. And I think some schools are going away from that, and I wonder if they're going to end up regretting it. But then again, playoffs are played in the middle of these other stadiums. Until the NCAA does an NFL where you get a home game all throughout the playoffs until the championship, I don't know if we see anything change. NFL stadiums aren't changing. They're still smaller, more corporate, not as loud. People say the Chiefs Stadium is super loud. I don't know. I haven't been there, but it's cold there. Do I want to be there?
No.
Do you want to be in Lambeau? No.
No.
Maybe.
It's cold.
You're going to be somewhere warm.
Yes.
So, Miami.
Maybe not Miami.
Too much for you.
Not necessarily. Just prefer to not be in Miami.
So, would it depend on what position you play?
Well, right now, Miami is proving historically that it's tough to win there.
Well, see, so Miami, the Dolphins owner is a big Michigan donor. And apparently, like, if you're...
Well, maybe he should be donating to his own damn team because they're El Stinkola.
Well, if you're an NFL, like, if you're a major league, like a pro owner, like the Michigan State's basketball major donor, like, owns an NBA team now. And supposedly, like, you can't donate to your team's NIL now. Like, they put that in there as part of, like, I don't know if it's like a rule, right? Because if you're, it could be like, I get to the NFL, you're a free agent. You can sign with the guy that's been giving you money your entire life. Could be an unfair advantage, right? I don't know if that's true or not, but I've seen Michigan State fans complain about that. Where that's why they're falling off, Matt. But they're still in first place in Big Ten. I don't get it. Some fans, I guess, they're just born whiners. What can you say? Can never enjoy the things like your boy Jameis does, dude. Just happy. He's too happy for Pittsburgh, don't you think? Ben Roethlisberger was never happy. He always looked like he's fighting off another allegation. Once he rode that bike into that van, bro, it's over for him. He's never going to smile again. Hines Ward, though, he's happy. Some say he's still smiling to this day. But I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about?
I did see an article that kind of piqued my interest because one of the things that we've looked at is some of these different leagues over the years, and it was talking about the NFL and how they were making money, but the thing that really catapulted them into this upper tier was when they implemented the salary cap. Because like with the NBA, there in MLB, there was the salary cap, but then they also had, if you went above that salary cap, like you had to pay those extra fines toward the league. So like essentially it was just, you're going to pay more, but you're going to have it. With the NFL, when they set theirs, they set whatever the cap was going to be, and then that was what the cap was. You couldn't go over. Okay. So when they finally implemented it, what ended up happening was a lot of higher priced players, big name people hit free agency. And instead of it being a system where you had one or two teams that were just consistently dominated, it opened the floodgates and it allowed for like multiple teams to become more competitive almost instantly.
So baseball is kind of like the first example though, right? You're supposed to pay a luxury tax or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're over. Isn't NHL like that too? Maybe NBA?
NBA is, because that was one of the comparisons that I saw.
So that's what the new spring league is going to be?
I don't think.
Oh, I don't know. That's what I was wondering.
But I thought it was interesting because that was like with the NFL, they had one of their documentaries was on the 93 Houston Oilers, where like it was the team that Buddy Ryan punched Kevin Gilbride in the face during the game. But like if you go on YouTube, you can find it. Like it's a good watch for not having a lot of other stuff on right now. But one of the things that they were talking about was with that team is that they were set. They had like all the pieces there, but there was just so much dysfunction between the coordinators and the coaches and different stuff that they just couldn't put it together. And then what ended up happening was Bud Adams moved them to Tennessee, and then the salary cap just absolutely crushed them because they didn't prepare for it. They had all their eggs in, we're going to win the Super Bowl right now. And then they didn't. And then it was like, oh crap, we got to get however many millions of dollars to get cap compliant, and just had to gut their team.
And I kind of like that though. Cause like you don't have a super run. Cause even like in basketball, you kind of have it, but at some point, like you have enough rollover where it's like the Golden State Warriors are trying to do stuff, but they have to match what other teams are doing, or like the Celtics Lakers, like you can have a run, but it's like an ebb and flow. Where in baseball right now, it seems like the Dodgers are in it every year. And the Yankees used to be in it every year. And the Braves, heck, won how many division titles in a row? Like, that's kind of disheartening, right? If you're like a different fan. You're like, oh, we're losing the division again. But I guess college football is kind of the same way. So that's what people keep saying about maybe an NIL cap. And I'm thinking, how can you do that? And like, you don't know who's going to be paying the NIL. And if they're not getting a return, like what do they care? After a while, it's going to be hard to keep that money flowing. And it's going to be like political donations, right?
Yeah.
In these trying times, the guy has like 4 Mercedes behind him in the video. He's like, we really need another receiver here. These Mercedes aren't driving themselves.
These trying times.
We only won 9 games last year, fellas. We were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. You saw us get smacked by TCU or SMU or some other private school. We can't keep up with them anymore. We converted all our fan seats into luxury boxes, and now fans aren't coming for some reason. Please help us. That's what you'll see, and people will be like, "I guess I got to donate." It's like, do I eat today, or do I donate $5 to my favorite wide receiver, my favorite defensive lineman? Maybe I have to donate. You just have that like as your thing. Like, yep, we'll see. That would be the new Twitter badge. Like, who do you pay for on your team? It's like, yeah, support so and so. Hopefully he doesn't transfer. That's what I think will happen. I wonder if there'll end up being like a fight. Some guy will give his money to a player, he'll transfer, and then that guy will like try to track him down and fight him. Because with the Wild West, you don't know, right? Some of these circles, I saw that there was some, I forget what it was, but there was a group that were like trying to do meetups now. And the players are like, they're getting too expensive. So it's like a smaller NIL group for like some of the smaller like sports. I don't know what sport it was. I saw fans complaining on Twitter. Like it was supposed to be, I don't think it was hockey. It might have been hockey. Might have been like, what else is going on right now? Gymnastics or softball maybe? Where there was supposed to be a team meetup and they're like, nah, you didn't hit the NIL threshold. So like the donors are having their own like hangout somewhere without any of the players like normal, but they're still going to get together because why not? They already invested the time and money for like an outing. I forget what the outing was. And I thought that's the future. Some NIL group will spot up. You'll donate money and be like, all right, got like a golfing event. And then you get there and you're like, where is everybody? They're like, you're the only guy that paid. Go ahead, go golf. Get like a donor pin, like the I voted sticker. I donate, you wear it to the game. Well, dude, that's a good idea. Because people are like sheep. They'll do that. They will wear an I donate sticker. Just like an I voted sticker with like an MLK Florida State Seminole chop on it. I think we should do that. Get Norvell on. Well, we'll get Jameis first. And then if he's on board, he can pass it along to Norvell for us. And then you'll buy a I donated sticker.
See, there you go. That'd get them in.
The renovations will happen so fast then, Matt. They could have a spring game. It would be perfect. That's my last thing. You have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
I hope that takes off. Because, dude, I would love to see people wearing an I donate sticker. So if you have any other ideas like that, let us know. Who knows? It could be on the ground floor of something groundbreaking here. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.